Every human instinct tells you to run away from smoke. It stings your eyes. It fills your lungs. It signals danger, destruction, and fire out of control. Yet for thousands of years across every single continent inhabited by our species, human beings have done something completely counterintuitive. We actively sought out smoke, trapped it, and drew it deep into our lungs. Today, we think of smoking as a modern health crisis, a habit tied to gas station counter displays, industrial cigarettes, and corporate boardrooms. But the relationship between the human brain, plant chemistry, and combustion is exponentially older than the modern world. Long before anyone rolled a cigarette, pressed a tobacco leaf, or carved a clay pipe, our ancestors were experimenting with fire in ways that fundamentally altered human culture. This isn't just a story about tobacco or cannabis. This is the story of how a toxic byproduct of fire became medicine, ritual, social glue, and eventually a multi-billion-dollar industrial obsession. To understand where this started, you have to go back to a time before Homo sapiens even existed. Roughly 1 million years ago, Homo erectus mastered fire. Fire provided warmth, cooked meat, and kept nocturnal predators at bay. But early hearths weren't outside in open fields. They were built inside cave mouths and overhangs to protect the flames from wind and rain. If you've ever sat downwind of a campfire, you know how quickly smoke fills a space. For early hominids living in caves, chronic smoke inhalation wasn't a choice. It was a daily environmental reality. Here is where basic botany changes everything. Early humans were master foragers. They gathered thousands of plant species for food, shelter, and fuel. When you toss random branches and dried foliage onto a fire, you aren't just burning cellulose. You are incinerating complex chemical factories. Plants naturally produce defensive chemicals called secondary metabolites, alkaloids, terpenes, and phenols designed to deter insects or herbivores. When exposed to heat, these compounds don't always destroy. Often, they vaporize. In an enclosed cave, tossing a specific bundle of dried brush onto the hearth meant everyone in the space inhaled an aerosolized dose of whatever chemicals that plant contained. Inhale with smoke from pine, and you get mild sedation. Throw in wild nightshades, psychoactive herbs, or wild hemp, and the atmospheric chemistry of the cave changes instantly. Long before anyone invented a pipe, the campfire itself was acting as a massive communal vaporizer. At some point, observation turned into intention. Humans are pattern recognition machines. If burning plant made the tribe sleepy, burning plant B relieved pain, and burning plant C produced vivid waking dreams, our ancestors remembered. By the time we reached the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 to 15,000 years ago, we see clear evidence that humans weren't just passively breathing smoke, they were curating it. In 2019, archaeologists excavating a 12,000-year-old camp in Utah found charred wild tobacco seeds inside a hearth, pushing back direct human selection of Nicotiana by thousands of years. In Central Asia, at sites dating back over 2,500 years in the Pamir Mountains, scientists uncovered specialized wooden braziers with stones heated to extreme temperatures, carrying the chemical signature of high-THC cannabis. Notice how these early setups worked. They didn't have small personal devices. They used fumigation tents or sealed rooms. The ancient historian Herodotus documented this exact practice among the Scythian nomads of the Eurasian steppe, describing how they threw wild hemp onto hot stones inside felt tents and inhaled the resulting vapor during funeral rituals. For thousands of years, smoking was a collective, environmental experience rather than an individual habit. Across the Atlantic, in the Americas, the relationship with smoke took a completely different trajectory. Here, tobacco, specifically Nicotiana rustica and Nicotiana tabacum, became the supreme botanical power. Unlike modern commercial tobacco, ancient wild tobacco species were blindingly potent, containing nicotine concentrations up to 9 times higher than what you find in a standard cigarette today. Inhaling raw, concentrated wild tobacco wasn't a mild stimulant effect. It was an intense, vision-inducing pharmacological event. Indigenous cultures across North, Central, and South America viewed smoke as a physical bridge between dimensions. Think about the physics of smoke. It starts as solid earth, transforms through fire into an invisible gas, and rises directly toward the sky. To the ancient mind, smoke was the ultimate messenger. It carried human breath and prayers upward to the spirit world. Tobacco pipes weren't casual recreational tools. They were sacred ceremonial instruments used to seal treaties, heal the sick, and communicate with forces beyond the physical realm. It wasn't just spiritual practice. Smoking was the original fast-acting medical delivery system. Before modern pharmacology, if you swallowed a medicinal herb, it took hours to digest, and much of the active compound was broken down by liver enzymes. But inhaling vaporized plant compounds delivers active molecules straight through the lungs into the bloodstream, reaching the brain in seconds. Split screen comparing ancient Egyptian herbal inhalation prescriptions, Greek medical fumigation, and Indian Ayurvedic pipes. Ancient Egyptian medical papyri from 1500 BC explicitly detail burning aromatic herbs and inhaling the smoke to treat respiratory distress. In ancient India, Ayurvedic medicine codified Dhumapana, a structured, therapeutic practice of smoking specific herbal blends to treat clear medical conditions. From Greece to China, smoke was respected as a targeted medical tool. So how did a sacred ritual, a communal campfire event, and a targeted medical delivery system turn into one of the most destructive commercial habits in human history? The answer is industrialization and commercial scaling. When European traders encountered tobacco in the 15th century, they stripped away the cultural discipline, spiritual protocols, and ceremonial boundaries that indigenous societies had maintained for millennia. They turned a potent, sacred plant into a daily consumer product. By the late 19th century, the invention of automated cigarette rolling machines allowed factories to produce millions of cigarettes a day. To make smoke smoother and easier to inhale deeply, chemical additives, humectants, and bronchodilators were introduced. What had been a rare, intentional practice became a continuous, daily chemical feedback loop engineered for corporate profit. When you trace the story of smoking all the way back to its origins, you realize something remarkable. Long before industrial factories, long before pipes and papers, inhaling smoke was one of the earliest ways human beings learned to interact with the natural chemical world around them. It was an accidental discovery born around primitive campfires, a moment where fire, chemistry, and human curiosity collided. We transformed a toxic environmental hazard into ritual, medicine, and connection. And even in the modern world, as technology evolves and culture shifts, that ancient impulse to gather around a light in the dark and breathe in the smoke remains woven deep into the fabric of who we are. Thanks for watching.